Barrett is the executive director of Nebraska Farm Business, Inc. She works with a group of producers across Nebraska on business planning, financial analysis, and tax preparation. Tina's review of 2013 returns for her farmers and ranchers is complete, and when she joined us earlier this week, she said that group saw a noticeable drop in net farm income from 2012.
We saw a drop of about 55% from 2012, which is a very significant drop from where we have been.
What do you think is behind that?
Well, I think the biggest contributing factor is the price of corn. We're looking at things on an accrual basis, so we're looking at what was really earned in that year. So this is the first year we saw a crop year with those lower prices. So
2012 would have been a drought year, meaning 2013 should have been a little bit better for livestock, but maybe not as good for crops when you figure in the payments.
Right. 2012, it depends on where you were at in the year. It was a pretty good year for irrigated corn producers. It wasn't so great in the dryland areas. 13 was more of an even year for those dryland producers. Significant drop for the irrigated guys.
Right.
And livestock guys certainly saw better feed prices than they've experienced in the last few years, and so that definitely helped their net incomes too. How
did the volatility play in the grain markets for both livestock and crop farmers?
We didn't see a ton of movement in the market for that 2013 crop, that new crop last year. And so, there was some difference there, but for the most part, there wasn't a whole lot of marketing opportunities, which was good for the livestock guys and not so great for the crop guys.
Now, what are your expectations for 2014 based off of what it's looking like it will cost to produce both corn and soybeans?
Well, we saw total cost per acre going up for both corn and soybeans last year. Corn went from $730 an acre in 12 to $795. Soybeans also increased. I don't see that stopping. The only two categories that didn't increase for irrigated corn was irrigation repairs and irrigation expense, which coming from 2012 in a drought, those would be two to expect, but every cost increased. The biggest increase was cash rent. I didn't see that changing or haven't heard significant changes for 14. So I don't expect costs to be much lower in 14. So it really depends on where income lies. If we end up with a drought and good prices, we might end up with a good year, especially for those irrigated guys. We end up with a lot of production and low prices. It might be similar to 13.
Where's cost of living at right now?
Cost of living, it didn't go up, but it didn't go down either. So we're sitting just under $100,000 on what the average farm is taking out for living expenses, but taxes did go up from about $40,000 on average to $52,000 on average. So total costs that the non-farm is taking out increased dramatically again. And so when we're talking about $152,000 or so for taxes and family living and making about $174,000, that margin's gotten very tight.
How did the load of debt change from the producers you're working with?
We also saw the debt load increase. We're just sitting under $1 million for average debt now. And I think that's something to be concerned about, especially for those producers who are carrying a higher debt, because that's average. So there's some that are carrying significantly more and some that are carrying considerably less. So for those who have financed a lot of purchases the last few years, especially for tax purposes, or are pushing a lot of debt forward to control the taxable income, I think it's something to watch. As net income comes down, we've still got those payments for the next 5 to 7 years to make, and we want to make sure that those are feasible.
What about the debt to asset ratio?
Debt to assets creeping up slowly again. It's at 26%, which isn't bad, but it is creeping up.
One of the things you're working on now at Nebraska Farm Business is working with younger farmers to get them in the habit of record keeping for any producer out there. What are some things that would be good for them to do right away?
Yeah, well, our analysis program is a great thing for any farmer, but sometimes, it takes some habits to develop, and so we would like to get those developed while they're still small enough and eager to try and get things started on the right path. So that's a great path, but things we're looking at are keeping track of your inventories and doing balance sheets in the first of the year, keeping track of bushels as they're going through, as they're selling things. Keeping some of your input costs split between your enterprises so that we can monitor those closer. So it's a little easier to do when you have a smaller operation and get in the habit of doing those things.
The 2013 annual report can be purchased through the Nebraska Farm Business, Inc. website at nfbi.net.